As primary season picks up, Republicans probably have one less race to worry about. The Supreme Court ruling this week the current district map in New York needs to stay in place, overruling the lower courts that called for changes to District 11, which covers Brooklyn and Staten Island. That seat, the only House Republican representation for New York City, held by Congresswoman Malliotakis. And I spoke to her earlier this week about the ruling, redistricting overall, and the big vote in the House on war powers in Iran. Malliotakis goes on the record. And Congresswoman Malliotakis is joining me now. So great to see you once again. Thanks for coming back.
It's good to be with you. Thank you.
So let me start, Congresswoman, with the big political win for you, right? The Supreme Court ruling the lines of your district will actually remain in place. So tell us about your reaction when you learned of that decision and what it means moving forward.
Look, we had said all along that this lawsuit that was brought by Democrat operatives was meritless and that it was simply an attempt to racially gerrymander our district to tilt the scale. And it's unconstitutional, according to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they reiterated that the other day. There was no reason to touch this district that was independently drawn by a special master. It was then 2 years later ratified by the governor and the state legislature, who are Democrats. The Democrats continue to maintain a double-digit registration advantage, and so this was really an attempt to change the map so they could silence the voters of Staten Island and Brooklyn, and they failed.
You know, in the dissent from one of the justices, Sonia Sotomayor, she stated that the federal court should not interfere in state election matters, and they haven't in the past when it came to decisions like this, but this time they did step in. So does this set a precedent that could cause issues down the line on the flip side?
Well, the Supreme Court also ruled that California and Texas, one red state, one blue state, could move forward with the gerrymandered maps. The difference here was that they were trying to gerrymander this district based on race, and that is unconstitutional. But also, the fact that petitions have gone out, you have candidates who are declared, candidates who have raised money, and they had no map. Constituents didn't know what district they were living in. The Supreme Court had to step in here because it was going to create complete chaos. So not only was it unconstitutional what the Democrats were trying to do here, but in addition, it was going to create serious chaos to the political calendar. And so it was the right thing to preserve these independently drawn maps. And we move forward here and know that we're going to win on merit, we're going to win on policy, and we're going to win on debate. And that's what this is about. Now, if the voters want me to have another term, I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, it's their decision. It is their decision. The people of Staten Island and Southern Brooklyn, not the decision of map makers that are politically connected or high-priced Democrat attorneys in Washington.
You know, should this happen in, say, another area where it would benefit a Republican, would you be against a gerrymander or a redrawing of lines in a non-census year?
Actually, I've introduced legislation with Congressman Mike Lawler to prohibit gerrymandering in the mid-decade. Gerrymandering, or we should say redrawing the maps based on the census, should only be happening every 10 years. And I've said that political gerrymandering is wrong, regardless of which party does it. I was just as critical when Texas did it as when California did it or when New York did it. It doesn't matter to me which party is doing it. It is wrong because you're diluting the voice of the people. In this district in particular, this is the only competitive seat we have in New York City. It was held by a Democrat. In 2020, I defeated that Democrat because that person was not representing this district. It's as simple as that. Now, if you make the district not competitive, then the voters, really, they can't hold their congressperson accountable. And that's what this is about, preserving the voice of the people of this district so they are the ones who choose it, not the map makers, not the Democrat-connected attorneys and operatives. And that's the way it should be.
You know, Congressman, in full disclosure, to switch gears here, I'm speaking with you on Thursday, the same day that there's a big House vote on war powers resolution that would require the president to seek congressional permission before continuing the war with Iran. So how do you plan to actually go in to vote on this measure, and why are you deciding that way, one way or another?
Yeah, look, the president has 60 days to be able to complete this campaign. We should be taking a vote then at that point. But what I will say here is that what we saw unfold in Iran was absolutely amazing, and the work done by our military men and women needs to be applauded by everyone. The bottom line here is they removed the Ayatollah and the Iranian command, the head of the defense, the head of the so-called judiciary that were backing terrorist organizations, the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the people who were responsible for killing Americans, killing our allies, and causing such havoc, not only in the Middle East, but around the world. And so this is a very important initiative to remove those threats, as well as ensure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon, and that they don't have intercontinental ballistic weapons either. And so I think that this is a worthy mission. We appreciate the men and women who are executing it, and it was done with precision, as we are seeing. What happened over the weekend was done with precision, as it was over the summer when they took out that nuclear facility, and also when they took out Soleimani during President Trump's first term.
But Congressman, on the resolution, right, and the vote today that would require the president to seek congressional permission, how are you going to vote?
Well, I'm voting no because he has 60 days. This resolution should be coming up after that 60-day period is up.
Okay. Thank you for that. And with this, 6 U.S. service members have lost their lives with the situation. The president has said that there is really no end in sight. So I'm listening to you carefully say how well it was executed, but is this a war that you believe the U.S. should be involved in?
Well, I believe this is a limited campaign. It should be a limited campaign. And we'll have to see how it unfolds. Right now, they are ahead of schedule in meeting all their targets. And we are hopeful that this can be done in a timely manner without having boots on the ground and without this being a long-term conflict. And so I think that the plan is being executed as it should be, and we're going to keep monitoring the situation and continue to be briefed by the administration every step of the way.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like the timeline keeps shifting on what the end site is. I know you're saying it should be limited.
Well, they're ahead of schedule, so it's right now they've done everything that they've wanted to do ahead of schedule, and it's only been a few days. Yeah,
the president, just in full disclosure, right as we were about to talk, Axios ended a conversation with the president where he said that he would like to have a hand in who the next leader of Iran is. Should that be something the president should be involved in?
Look, I think it's up to the people of Iran to choose who their next leader is. Obviously, we don't want somebody who's going to be adversarial or to continue to fund terrorism. So we want this to be a real election where they can choose someone that they want that will preserve their freedoms and preserve democracy in that country. That's what we want. We don't want another horrific regime that oppresses its people. But at the end of the day, it is up to the Iranian people to make that determination.
Yeah.
And that's the third piece of this, but really the important piece of why the United States got involved was because Iran was steadfast on building a nuclear weapon, which would been catastrophic. And secondly, they were funding terrorists who have killed Americans for decades. And we had to stop that. I think those were the two main initiatives, but certainly seeing the Iranian people be able to have a free and fair election and elect their leader is something that we would also be happy and should be in a perfect situation, which we're hoping this is executed properly. They will be able to do that. So
just so I'm clear, do you disagree that the president said he should have a say, just like he did in Venezuela?
Well, I don't think that any of us should have a say. Yeah. I think that this is, at the end of the day, it's up to the Iranian people. Yeah. Just like it's up to American citizens to elect our leader. Does he have, will we have a preference? Of course, and I laid that out, what our preference would be. But at the end of the day, it's really up to the Iranian people.
Congresswoman, all of this, I spoke to a lot of New Yorkers who are simply on edge, and I'm sure you can understand why, right? Because New York is always considered a target in a situation like this. The mayor, just this week, I sat down with him. He told me that he's constant communication with the police commissioner and that there haven't been any threats to New York. You're in some of these important high-level meetings. Are you hearing about any threats to New York? Can you assure the public they're safe?
Well, look, I think, first of all, there's always threats to New York if you talk to the NYPD commissioner. The thing is what's real, what's not real, and I think that our job as Congress is to ensure that the NYPD receives the counterterrorism funding it needed. Earlier this year, I fought with the Department of Homeland Security to ensure that they got the money that they needed to protect New York City. And in addition to that, making sure we pass the Homeland Security funding bill. I mean, the fact that Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, who are from New York and understand that the department was created after September 11, 2001 for counterterrorism, the fact that they're not, and they're actually urging their membership to vote against the Homeland Security funding bill this week is an atrocity.
Okay.
Cybersecurity, counterterrorism, our Coast Guard, border protection, all of that is funded under the Department of Homeland Security, and we need to make sure they have the resources that they need, because that does put us at risk if we're not fully functioning.
Okay, I'm up against the clock, but I appreciate your time during a very busy week. Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me.